What up, Ho Biscuits? It's your girl Skitten, back at it again. As you can see, I'm clearly in the Halloween. Oh shit. Oh no, I broke it. Oh, I'm so sad. I'll have to have Chavez fix it for me. Anyway, as you can see, I was clearly in the Halloween spirit. In case you guys are wondering, these were like fucking $3 or $4 from Target. The mask I've been had, but you can find similar ones for like $4 again from Target or the dollar store even. So don't ever say I didn't give you anything, because I just gave you recommendations for how to put together a bomb last minute / cheap Halloween costume. You're welcome. And with all of that said, me and my homie Totoro, yeah, I know who this nigga is. I might not have seen his movie, but I know he damn cute. Me and my homie Totoro are here to watch people who are raised by Doomsday preppers. Let's hear some stories from their unfortunate lives. I'm gonna get started. 3, 2, 1.
People who were raised by Doomsday preppers. What was it like? I had a very good friend in high school whose grandparents raised him. They were pretty religious people and believed fully and completely in the whole Mayan calendar doomsday thing. But they were Christian.
Okay.
So they saved up all this canned soup, because canned soup will save you from doomsday, and believed that if they hid in their basement during doomsday that they would be able to survive. But in 2012,
only soup?
when it didn't happen, they took it a step further. They decided to move the whole family, 3 children, to Utah to live on a secluded farm in order to save up for and prepare for the future doomsday. They believed that they would be told by Jesus somehow of the next doomsday, and by hiding in their basement in their large house in the middle of nowhere, Utah, their lives would be saved. And from then on they would have repopulated with all of the people who were saved after Armageddon. My friend used to call my crying. Keep in mind he was 15-year-old kid, because he was so upset about what his grandparents were making them do. It was pretty fucked up. Update: since I have gotten so many replies, I'm going to look into where he is and what he is doing.
Wait, you didn't keep track of that shit for us? Bitch. Yo, you know that's fucked up. You know that's wrong to tease us with that story. Come on now.
I'll answer as soon as I find out. I'll be up answering questions if anybody else has any. Update: I did find him on social media, but he hasn't uploaded in about a year. I have some connections through friends. I'll try to figure out how he is doing. Update: I have contacted a friend and he apparently is living here and has a job at a shopping center. So I at least know he is doing okay. He also apparently has a girlfriend. I know I keep updating, but I'm trying to keep the story up as soon as I get info.
And we appreciate you for that. We appreciate you are doing the Lord's work.
Update: I was finally able to make contact with him this morning. He is living in a small apartment with his girlfriend, and he's doing fine. I'm sure he has some shit to work out. He doesn't have contact with his grandparents anymore, but his sisters call him a couple times a year. They are apparently being homeschooled, but he doesn't buy it. That's all I really got out of him before his girlfriend texted me and became angry that I was attempting to flirt with him. So I backed off. Even though I'm in a committed relationship, but whatever. At least he is doing fine. He seemed like he was in a pretty good place, just has a crazy overprotective girlfriend. While I wouldn't say doomsday preppers, my family is pretty big into survival skills and food storage and all that. I guess I had a normal childhood. My family keeps food storage and we used to have some 50-gallon drums to hold water in before we had to empty it to move. I spent my childhood learning knot making, camping, survival skills, shooting, and a bit of woodworking. My favorite story
But see, those are the people that are gonna fucking survive if there's ever a fucking zombie apocalypse, bro.
Has to be when I went on a survival trip with my Boy Scout troop a few years ago, and we slept without tents or food or a fire source, and fished mussels out of a lake to eat. That just sounds like you're gonna freeze to death. Life is pretty normal aside from my ridiculous stash of camping gear for Boy Scout and backpacking trips. If there's anything I've learned from all of this, it's that self-sufficiency is one of the best feelings you can have. It's the combined meaning of hope, confidence, and strength.
And see, I think that's why I'm kind of like, yeah, doomsday preppers are, you know, they take it to the nth degree, you know, but like survivalists, I feel like survivalists are great because I'm just like, if I So if something were to happen, right, and I were to lose all of the trappings of like the modern lifestyle, technology and shit, I would just fucking die. Bitch, I don't know how to recognize what's safe and not safe to eat. I don't know how to catch a fucking animal. Like, I don't know how to do literally anything. I am useless, okay? I'm very pretty, okay? I'm very cute, I'm very charming, but I am not useful in a survival situation. So, I like this.
My in-laws are the only people I know who could even come close to being described as preppers. My Phil slowly acquired various skills over the course of 30 to 40 years.
Okay.
He's an electrician by trade, a ham radio operator. He took up astrology to learn the ephemeris, and how to read stars,
I like
woodworking, and carpentry. He's licensed to own a handgun. He has Nokia cell phone stashed away, wrapped in tinfoil to protect against temp.
Okay.
My mill can make her own clothes. Plants a small hobby farm's worth of vegetables every year. Pickles, jams, cans and preserves all of it. She can slaughter a pig and butcher
God
it.
damn.
This is just the short list. They certainly aren't the most hardcore about it, but they still bring bug out bags when they come to visit. My wife wasn't raised a prepper. They did all this right out in the open. There are only clues that you can see looking back that reveal a pattern or long-term plan.
Right.
Not raised, but I rented a room in a prepper's house for a few years. The guy was super nice, and didn't come across as crazy, except for his massive distrust of gut. He had chickens, and food that would last them 4 years. Pros: fresh eggs every morning. Cons: chicken coops smell like chicken shit. This wasn't all that weird as we were in rural New Mexico. In the house, there were a few closets completely full of dried beans and rice in airtight containers.
You can eat that shit for
Other
fucking
drawers
ever,
had
bro.
rares, various supplies you might take camping, etc. To be quite honest, it was not at all bothersome and actually gave me a lot of comfort that, on the odd chance he was right in his weird predictions, we would be ready.
I feel that.
I think a lot of people could be better prepared for disasters than they are. Like others here, my mom wasn't a full-blown prepper. She's a woman who likes the idea of being prepared during an emergency. When my mom got a big tax refund a few years ago, she stocked up on about a year's worth of non-perishable foods, emergency supplies, and we learned survival skills. Although we ate all the food not due to an emergency, but due to hard economic times, it was a major relief to have something to fall back on when times got tough.
I love that though.
Some of the weird things though, we had a plan to get to Canada. Seeing my mom thought Bush was going to declare martial law.
Alright.
Hey everybody. Sometimes I feel like we dismiss preppers as paranoid idiots who want the world to fall apart.
Yeah, I definitely
I'm a
think they have
prepper,
that.
and I like to think I'm not an idiot. The idea is to have the tools and rations to comfortably survive minor disasters, as well as supplies for long-term emergencies.
I like that because I do feel like some doomsday preppers are like all whooshy about it, you know? But like I also feel like you need to be prepared for stuff. You know what I mean? Like even if just like in the previous thing, like it said like hard economic times, but like can you imagine thinking that you're flush and then you're not and you have no food in your house? Like so many people are in that place. Sorry, so my coworker was literally just talking about how like back in the day like his mom used to make him like peanut butter sandwiches and they would drink abuelita hot chocolate, you know what I mean? He's like, as a kid, like I was like, man, this shit's great, blah blah blah, but you know, like he realized as he grows up, like bro, we were on the brink of starvation. That was just literally all we had left in the house. We were drinking, you know, drinking hot chocolate fucking for every meal and shit like that. And as a kid you're super psyched, but you know, like as a parent you're like, this is my last ditch, this is all I have to give you, you know what I mean? So I do like this view of doomsday prepping.
For instance, in the short term, I have a couple blankets in my car during the winter months, along with some bottled water and a little bit of food, plus of course a backpack and some other tools like a knife. Long term I maintain a sizable garden and set aside canned and dried food in my basement. I make sure my plants are of the heirloom variety so that I won't have any trouble replanting the seeds.
Okay.
These are those most basic of my preparations, but they could really make a difference in an emergency.
That's really
Things
true
that
though.
could potentially affect my area include short term flooding, extended power outage, snowed in, other natural disasters, etc. Longer term, economic troubles, foreign wars creating a terror risk, or economic troubles. A disease outbreak that is dangerous enough that I don't want to go shopping for my next meal. Extreme cases, while highly unlikely, are something that don't hurt to think about. The Yellowstone supervolcano, if it erupts, would cause massive food shortages and potentially a period of cold climate, especially in North America.
Okay.
Nuclear attack, very unlikely, but possible. Either through terrorism, an individual bomb, not launched, but transported. Think Jericho. Or
Right.
if an unstable country is taken over by terrorists or someone else insane. Particularly in the Middle East. My dad is an atheist doomsdayer.
Okay.
In the 80s, he thought there would be a race war. He's racist, but not openly in public. Only his family really knows. He made a lot of jokes when we were kids, like when we did something we shouldn't. He'd say, "Don't do X. White people do it like this." Heh, I know. So gross. Later, he worried about the climate, or whatever was in the news. He owns a bunch of land with a barn on it. It's where he'll go live off the land, if the shit hits the fan. When I
feel
was
it.
a kid, our house
Honestly.
was off the grid.
Honestly, can he go now so that like people don't have to deal with his microaggressive bullshit? Because I can guarantee you he's racist in public.
We had
Y'all might not notice it, but people of color notice.
solar panels in the early 80s. We had a room filled with batteries the size of car batteries. They have since scrapped out, and he's trying to recycle them somehow. We had a huge garden and candle lot. He bought antique, wood and coal-powered steam engines and horse-powered threshers, and draft horses, so we could farm without gasoline, should we
Okay.
need to do so. He saved everything. He is a hoarder, but not the dead cats and trash kind. He saved containers, scrap wood, whatever he thought would be useful. He was crazy about waste and overconsumption. He had a system everyone had to follow in order to wash dishes with the least amount of water. In the Midwest, we didn't have a count or central heat, just a wood-burning stove. He heated all our bath water in the winter on the stove to save energy. My mom
Damn.
pretty much went along. He relaxed a bit over the years, which saved their marriage.
Damn.
My boss was really into the personal defense / weaponry aspect of all of this.
I don't know if we count as doomsday preppers, but Chavez and I do have a lot of fucking knives and swords. Like, we ain't got a gun, but if you need a fucking sword, if you need to stab somebody, nigga, we got you.
Guns, Russian fight training, knife play, etc.
Uh-huh.
It always made me feel like in a real meltdown he would be one of the first to be targeted, because
Oh,
everyone
wow.
knew about his collection.
That makes sense.
I always try to remind people that we, the world, have been through some serious situations before, and we got through them acting as a cooperative groups, not a bunch of violent individuals.
True.
My parents are very hardcore, very hardline Catholics. In the years leading up to 1999/2000, they befriended a couple who convinced them that in the year 2000 the world would be visited by the 3 days of darkness where God would allow the devil to unleash all the demons of hell on earth and collect all the souls of the unfaithful.
Bitch,
There
what
would be
the
no
fuck?
electricity, no running water, batteries wouldn't work, generators and cars wouldn't work, and to
What?
go outside would mean instant death. Presumably by being dragged to hell by a demon.
Yo,
They full on
what?
bought into this story and ran with it.
Oh,
Not surprisingly, there were a
no.
bevy of publishers and writers who wrote books on the subject, and my parents bought them all and made them required reading of all us kids.
Oh, no.
There were prayer books, rosaries, idols, votive candles, pamphlets, all kinds of paraphernalia all over our house. My parents bought votive candles by the case, because during the 3 days of darkness only votive candles would burn.
Oh, okay.
They stockpiled water and canned food in the basement. We even had a family disaster plan in place for when it would happen, how we would get to the house, and what we would do during the 3 days. This went on for 6 or 7
Oh,
years.
no.
I was 13 when it began, and it continued all through high school and into my first 2 years of college.
Oh,
I
Jesus.
talked about it at school and people thought I was crazy, which, in retrospect, I was.
Not necessarily crazy, but definitely brainwashed.
I tried to get my favorite teachers to believe me because I wanted
Aw,
to save
that's
them.
so
I didn't have
cute.
very many friends to begin, and this only made things worse.
Aw, that
The
sucks.
bullies at school went from casually tormenting me to full-on targeting me. I skipped my senior prom to go spend a weekend retreat for young men considering the priesthood because I didn't have a girlfriend, and I thought people would just make fun of me while I was there.
That sucks.
I didn't realize it at the time, but it was incredibly stressful. I was living in fear of the end of the world as I knew it, and I didn't know when it would come. I didn't know who among my loved ones were going to live or die, or for that matter, whether or not I was worthy enough to live through it. I prayed constantly, read the Bible, went to church, and tried to be the perfect Catholic. It also gave me a crippling anxiety disorder until I was about 23 years old. Oddly enough, the age I lost my virginity and stopped going to church.
Congrats.
And to this day I live with the vaguest feeling that I am, in some way, guilty and horrible, and I'm unworthy of what life has to offer. My parents never offered any explanation or apology for that ordeal.
That's bullshit.
They were being good parents, because better safe than sorry.
Nah,
I've never
bro.
talked to them about it, and they've never tried to bring it up with me. They never said, well kids, I guess it's not true. It just sort of went away. The books and pamphlets all got put into boxes. The canned goods and water got used up. The votive candles are still down in my parents' basement from what I remember, but they're covered in dust and haven't been touched in years. I'm no longer Catholic. I have a deep resentment towards the church, and I have serious doubts about the existence of God or any God.
Makes
I don't
sense.
believe the world is coming to an end, except in 4 billion years, when the sun expands and encompasses Earth, because that's what science tells us will happen. My parents.
So like, I feel like in situations like the last one, I feel like it's so hard for people to admit that they were wrong and that they were mistaken, that they would rather just like brush past it, move up past it, especially in the case of parents. Like, so many parents of like earlier generations have an issue with admitting to their children that they were wrong about like something that they did or a way that they acted, you know? And so I always think it's so unfortunate when like parents make such a massive mistake like that and then they refuse to acknowledge it, because now your kid has to live with like that confusion and resentment, you know what I mean? And I just always feel like it would be so much healthier for you to just sit down with your kids and be like, look, you know, this is what happened, we were wrong, etc., etc., you know what I mean? Like, and just be like, we were wrong, but you know, thank God it didn't happen, but if it did happen, we would have been prepared. You know what I mean? Like, you don't have to be like, I was wrong and I'm awful, but like also at the same time, like, it's so easy to just acknowledge that with your kids, so then your kids don't have to live like this guy is living, you know, with like a lot of resentment, and like, you know, he's still living with the consequences of what they did, you know what I'm saying? So that shit's always crazy. But bro, doomsday prepping is no fucking joke, man. Like, I don't know. My mom was like, she's not like a doomsday prepper, but I feel like a lot of doomsday prepping, or not a lot of, sorry, my mom's not like a doomsday prepper, but she is like one of those people who, like, when they have like case lot sales at Smith's, like my mom will buy cases and cases of food. But I feel like that's more because like my mom grew up super fucking broke, you know what I mean? Sneak into the kitchen and like try to eat matches, and that's because you have a Pika craving because you're literally like on the verge of starvation. Like, my mom was fucking broke, dude. And so I feel like when you get older and you have the economic stability to be able to, you know, buy a bunch of food, you want to buy it and hoard it because you never know what's gonna happen. And I feel like that's the aspect of doomsday prepping that is really important, because you really don't ever know what's gonna happen, you know what I mean? And so, do I think we need to prepare for an eventual doomsday? Not necessarily, but I do always think that you can take some positive aspects of prepping and like incorporate that into your own life. But with all of that said, peace out, Hope Biscuits. It's Skitten Lit. Make sure you let me know down in the comments below if you've ever had any experiences with any preppers or anything like that, because I'd love to hear your stories. Peace out, Hope Biscuits. It's Skitten Lit.